Thank you very much. I would like to come back to one crucial point that was mentioned, is the perception on Africa and the very tough judgment that has been made about on Africa, on all over its history, and we must recognize that Africa has faced major challenges. We have 54 countries, 800 million inhabitants, and it is quicker to fly from Dakar to New York than from Dakar to Cape Town. That must be mentioned. Some countries have been liberated only 20 years ago. Take South Africa. So, in spite of this heritage, we still talk about emerging countries. Hunger, poverty are still on our agenda because we've just come out of slavery and colonization. We had to work for our independence and for its development, education, health, building infrastructure. And we have another challenge, is fight against terrorism. And we need to have lots of money and lots of solidarity and cooperation. And it is what I call an asymmetrical war. Otherwise, if it was a normal war, how can you explain that Nigeria cannot contain those terrorists? So Nigeria has got a strong army, but the challenge is somewhere else. It's another type of challenge. But overall, Africa is on the right tracks. And you mentioned that Africa has got very strong economies. But we still are in a paradox. The African paradox is the following. All eyes are on Africa, all eyes are on our growth, but all eyes are on poverty. So there is a problem of equity, revenue sharing, still problems of democracy, and that must be seen from a historical perspective. Europe took 200 years to be united and unified. And when you think of what happened in Europe during the Second World War, you can understand that we have to put Africa into perspective. And we are going to be very soon the center of convergence, of riches. And of course, we all put into place 5-year plans, 10-year plans, and visions over 30 years and 50 years. But each country has taken into their hands, their future.
Paul Polman, briefly, sir, let's talk about the other pillar for 2063. It's industrialization. This is a major challenge, I think. Africa, net exporter of raw materials. We could be producing, we could be adding value. Manufacturing capacity is weak. It's weak all across the 54 states. What can be done to make it better? And I know it's an infrastructure issue, but somebody mentioned political will. Is there the will? Is there the business will?
Well, it's all of the above, as always. It's not that easy. Otherwise, if it's one thing, we would have solved it. That's what people need to understand. So it's this complex ecosystem that we're trying to attack here. The issues of security in the world, not only Africa, in the world, the issues of security are foremost driven by desperation, where too many people are excluded from the economic system. It's not religion that's at the root of that. It's actually desperation that is at the root. So we have to get inclusive growth and more equitable growth. And that is why the second thing that you rightfully chose in Africa is to get this poverty out of the way. A world that's not in equilibrium, where too many people feel that they are not fully participating and are excluded, will rebel against itself. That's why people went into the streets of Turkey and Brazil as well, or the Arab Spring, and the same will happen anywhere in the world. And frankly, Occupy Wall Street was a symbol of that in the US even. So we have to get inclusive growth. That is the most important thing. A system where the top 85 richest people in the world have the same wealth as the bottom 3.5 billion is not going to last anymore. A system where still 1 billion people go to bed hungry whilst we're wasting 30 to 40% of the food as if it's nothing is not going to last anymore. Where 1.2 billion of the top people in the world consume 75% of the world's resources and the others can just look at them, it's not going to work anymore. And the reason it's not working is because we all have now this transparency, the internet obviously being a big part of that, that people can see that it can be done differently. That's probably the best thing. Right. So on industrialization or growth, which has to be a more equitable growth, and once more I want to stress more sustainable growth, because Africa will be one of the continents most affected by the lack of resources and things like climate change. So you have to do it in a proper way. Now, the best thing that business can do, global business, local business, small businesses, big businesses, businesses that started in Africa or anywhere else in the world, is to invest for the long term. We have to get out of this short-termism. Africa cannot be just the supplier of the rest of the world. So we have to invest here, and agriculture is a big part of that. So you invest in capability, you invest in your value chain, you invest in your people, you invest in ensuring that the added value of your production stays here. You invest in capability building, in paying taxes where you need to pay them. And we don't have to shy away from that because we happen to be business people. This is a 3.8 trillion economy in Africa, which is one of the biggest economies in the world, by the way. And if we would just leverage that combined scale, it's a tremendous thing that is about to be unlocked. So the same fact that you have 800 million people going to bed hungry, or nearly 1 billion, means also that you can sell more food if you figure that out to these 800 million to 1 billion people. And that's the same opportunity you find in all of these elements of the Millennium Development Goals. So instead of talking issues once more, we should talk opportunities, really. Not denying the problem, but that's absolutely key.
I just want, Carlos Lopez, just very briefly for you to add on this question of industrialization. Jobs, jobs, jobs. That's what Africa needs. That's the empowerment, ultimately, of the individual African. This room is full of business people. They are job creators. But despite their efforts, it's just not solving this problem of poverty, of skills, the social despair we're talking about. Do we need big ideas in Africa? Is it about innovation? What's the missing link? Funding?
Lerato, can I ask a question too?
Go ahead. Is it building on? Is it building?
Building on yours, Carlos. Because of your analytical, what you're doing, I think it would be very good if you can share with us because we've all admitted that, even with equity, we need to grow so that we can have something to share to the bottom. Can you help us think? We're so happy about this growth rate of rising Africa. I personally think it's not enough. What is the growth rate we need to get to in order to really make appreciable gains that we can share? We can now, try to share with those who are not making it. What's the growth rate towards 2063 for the continent?
Well, thank you. First, just to complement what President Macky Sall said, our ambition, and also Prime Minister Kamlan Dukan, our ambition for 2063 is to have 30% of world trade by 2063, because we are going to have 30% of the population. So if we are really going to have that level of ambition, all these intermediate targets make a lot of sense, like by 2020, be at this stage, by 2040, and so on. Why is this possible? Because it happened in other regions of the world, and it happened because they had a combination of factors that now are in our favor, like the youthness of the population, like the fact that we have an incredible potential moving forward to generate energy that is the energy of the future, renewable energy. If you look into the investments that are being made in Africa, in terms of percentage, most of it is going to renewable energy already, which is not the case in Europe and other parts of the world that are still trapped by technological platforms that do not correspond to how the world is going to look in the future. And of course, climate change is an opportunity for Africa rather than just a problem, because we have a model right now that is basically a colonial model. We extract, we don't transform, there is infrastructure to go to a port, and then from that port, there you go. Take the example of Guinea-Conakry, you produce bauxite, it goes to the port, and then it's transformed in Iceland. In Iceland. Why? Because they have cheap energy. This doesn't make any sense, this has to change. Now, responding concretely to the question, why is it not happening? And what is the percentage of growth that we require? Well, normally it would be simple to say it's 7% that we need to have for the continent to have